Hi, boss.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Nakash, and I'm guessing who is hosting.
Good morning, Shui.
Good morning, Susan.
Okay, starting to share the application. Move the Zoom window a little bit. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've pre-populated some agenda items. The first one is to just a status check on our repository. Sorry, just let me turn off my extended screen. I was getting a bit of echo. Can people? Okay, thanks, Ningxiang. Checking if Binbin is online because he's driving the documentation updates. Binbin, are you online?
Yes.
Okay. Could you recap on where we are with the donations?
So I think we have an issue to nominate the maintainers, and I think we can. Oh yeah, so we should have a PR to create the maintainer doc in the GitHub repo. So once it's merged, we can do the repo move like voting, and so once it's done, we can do the we can initialize the repo move.
Sounds good. So I've just opened up the nominate maintainers issue. So is the rule to keep, like I read something about keeping things open for 3 days. So is this good? Is today the third day?
I think so. And also the vote had over like half of the members. So we have like 12 members in the org, and now we have 7 approval.
Okay, so does that mean we can close this?
We should close it with PR to add the maintenance.
Got it. So it's
Is that correct?
Akash have a PR for code owners and maintainers list.
Oh yeah. Oh, can we take a look at? Oh,
Yeah, sure. Does this look good to everyone?
do you think we can merge this PR?
Yeah, should we?
Just a second.
I
Sure.
think so. Oh,
Sorry, E, were you saying something?
Yes. Just a second. Let me check the owners.
Sure. I think the code owners currently mirrors the maintainers.
Yeah, I mean the current organization owners. So can you go back to the nomination issue?
Sure. It
Um,
is.
So this PI is actually based on the nomination, right?
Yes, it's based off of this issue. Yep.
Okay.
E, is there anything you would like to update?
Yeah, I'm checking because for this nomination issue, we needed to close it, right? So we needed to say something. I'm thinking about that. And actually, the nominate maintainers, I mean, for Akash's comments, it means the maintenance for this repository, right? .github repository, right?
Correct. Yep. Sorry.
Go ahead, Akash.
That was my intention. It would be for this repository, but I do see that the way notation does it is that they have a section in the maintainers markdown with sub project ownership as well. Is that something we need to also add to this PR?
I think the PR, I just check it lists the org maintenance and repository maintenance, right? For the PR. Let me check again. In the PR, we have code owners and in the maintenance file, we list the org level maintenance. And for this issue, the nomination, that means the nomination is for the org level maintenance, right? Because in the PR, it didn't list the repository maintenance, so only in the org level maintenance. So that means, firstly, we would like to enforce the governance for this repository for the org level maintenance. So later on, we may nominate other members as the maintainers for this repository.
Sure. So this issue is to track nomination of org maintainers, and this PR only contains the org maintainers list. So after we specify the org maintainers, we can then do the vote again and receive the plugin donations.
Okay.
So are you okay with us merging this right now, E?
Yeah, I'm okay with that because so currently I'm not a maintenance for this. I was nominated. I'm just checking for the issue whether we have enough votes for it. So as Bing just said, we have 12
7 out.
members. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so let me merge this. Clicking, is there any, Akash, do you think we should do the merge commit or squash commit?
I think you should disable squash commit, if possible.
Okay,
Just do merge. I think merge commits are better.
okay. merge, create merge commit. Okay, merged. Thank you, everyone. The next item is issue number 2. This issue is for moving the Docker Ratify plugin from Shui's repository to Ratify project. We previously done a vert. Thank you, Binbin, for enable the vert YAML file. So this vert has expired. Binbin, what do you think the next step for this is?
We can create another one.
Okay. So just, yeah, we're just all learning the process here. So
Do you really need to? You have 4 in favor already, right? If you
Exactly what do you mean?
Like if you scroll down.
yes, so from the current maintainer list, we have a vert from Akash, Binbin, and that is and Feynman. So that's 3 out of 5 from the just defined maintainer list. So are we good to proceed?
I think that's majority. Right? Can we just move forward?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's settle on the. I mean, the updated maintainer list was a different issue. I think for this, I think we can close it as it is. Should be okay, is what I'm thinking.
Okay. So do we just summarize, like we have 3 votes out of 5 to proceed with the repository move?
Why is it counting 8 people didn't vote?
Because we have 12 members of the org.
I see. So that's also like Bridget and like everyone, right? Toddy. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I feel I need maybe say something misconfigured on the vote configuration. So because I think I remember it just requires the org level maintenance, and I create a team for the Ratify project. So currently there are only 3 people like me, Susan, and Akash. So it should only require like 2 of like votes, 2 of approvals from us. So but it reports that there are 12 members. So I think the configuration is wrong for now. I need to set it up correctly.
Yeah, we can just say while we identify the Git board process, we discussed it on the call, and this issue has been open for quite some time. So there were no concerns raised, and hence we are moving forward with it. It's okay. I think that's fine.
Okay. So
as long as you're transparently calling out how you made the decision, I think it's okay. Even if you make a mistake, it's documented there and we can correct it.
configured this that's on the community or what is the proper line for, do we just need votes from the maintainers or from all members?
I think
Just maintenance.
yeah, you need a supermajority from the maintainers typically for these kind of decisions, like you're moving a new repository and if it's a charter change or anything like that. But if it's just a repository, then it should be okay.
Maintainers, we are good to proceed. All right, so I will like I can comment or close this proposal.
That's, I think you can close with, you would close it after the repository, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's been commented on, familiarizing with the process. And now we proceed with the move. Is that from so if Shuwei initiate a project donation from his repository, what do we need to do on the receiving end?
Some other maintainers should receive it. Should we do it right now, or we can do it after the meeting?
Yeah, let's do it offline. So will we receive an email? Do you think, Shuwei?
I think I can have a meeting with you to do the whole process.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
And then the next one is issue number 4. This is the proposal to move the container D plugin. So let's see. It was in the same status. So could we just post the same comment? And Akash, I can work with you offline to receive the donation on this as well.
Sounds good.
Thanks. And then let me clean up this Windows a little bit. Governance documentation. Thanks for having this PR, Bin. What's the next step for this PR?
Do we have any new comments? No, okay.
I've reviewed it. It looks good to me. How many approvals do you need to merge this?
I feel it's just a normal PR. Maybe it's just request 1 or 2 approval. Is that correct?
Because it's like related to governance and stuff, I would imagine we need more, but E, can you share the common practice here?
Yeah, I think this is the initial governance document for this repo. We can just follow the common way of review and approve PR, and then we will check the governance document to see whether we need to update the criteria for approving governance related documents. But for this one, it's just the initialize the governance document. I think just one maintainer approve, I think is okay. And then later we can finalize the process for different criteria.
Yep, sounds good. So currently no other maintainers has signed off yet. It looked good to me. E, would you like to take another look? Or have you already reviewed all the content?
Yeah, I reviewed and the comment. I will take another look today. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this will be ready to merge soon, Bin.
Yeah, I'll merge it today.
Thank you. Cool. So the next one on the agenda is Akash, I remember you brought up an item during the PR review on Monday that we would need to talk about the signing of the Ratify assets.
Yes, yeah. So I think we can start by just discussing it briefly. I've written up a hack markdown document with a proposed plan across multiple stages to sign all of our assets, as well as produce SBOM and provenance metadata as recommended by the the OSSF scorecard as well. So for now, the PR that if you open up the PR that I have.
Yeah. Is this the right PR?
Yes, that's the right one.
And
so
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this PR adds both notation as well as cosign signing for all of our dev images. It uses a self-signed certificate that's being stored in a persistent Azure Key Vault in the same subscription that we're using for our end-to-end tests. I just generated one in Key Vault, and I pasted the public certificate in the root of the repository as well. So for now, I'm thinking we can start off with maybe just signing our dev images, and then from there we can see how we like that process and iterate from there. And once we've landed upon something more concrete, we can then introduce that for our release signing as well. But before that, let me paste the link to the document. If folks could just take a look at that over the next week, provide some comments on it, and then we can talk about next steps, when we want to do those, or what we might want to change in that process.
It's a good
Not
progress.
sure. Sorry.
It's a really good progress, I think.
So
Yeah, Akash, would you like to just briefly talk about it?
Okay, yeah, sure, I can go through it. So, so if you scroll down to the first section, so currently we publish a bunch of different assets, both in development usage, so our dev assets that are produced weekly, as well as for our release assets, which have a few more things. So for our release and dev assets, we publish a CRD container image, a base container image, which is base Ratify without any plugin binaries in it, and then also a base plus plugins container image. Alongside those, we also publish the actual binaries. So the Ratify binary includes, it's a bundled binary that includes the SBOM verifier as well as a vulnerability report plugin verifier. And we also package the source code in the release. And then finally, we have a checksums.txt, which contains the checksums of each one of the different binaries that are present in the release. Beyond the release itself, we also publish the Helm chart. So if you're publishing for a release, we package the Helm chart and publish it to our Ratify project github.io. And then for dev charts, we actually publish it as an OCI artifact and push that using the Helm OCI support. So currently there's like a phased approach, which I'm recommending. The first thing we're going to do is generate, or what we've already done is generate SBOM as well as provenance metadata using Docker BuildX. So using their built-in attestation capability. And that's how a lot of other existing open source projects are already adopting that. So Gatekeeper, for example, already does that. So if you go down to, yes, this section, basically the way BuildX does it is that you just add in an extra flag and you specify that you want to generate the SBOM and or the provenance metadata. And then it adds the actual metadata after generating it during build time to the image index as an OCI image. So if you scroll down a bit, if you use the Docker BuildX image tools inspect command, it'll show you all the different manifests. And then at the bottom there, you'll see that there's a few ones that have the the attestation manifest, the annotation there. So those are the actual provenance and SBOM attestations. And if you inspect those, you can see the content there. So that's what we've implemented so far. It's getting to parity with Gatekeeper. Moving forward, I think we may want to, depending on the route we go down, are we going to be also generating them as refer artifacts attached directly to our container images? Are we going to be generating using maybe some attestation framework that we decide upon, like in Toto? So I think that's also laid out in this document, and we would need to discuss what we want to prioritize for that. Beyond the actual Docker attestation work, Susan, if you scroll back up to the signing section, yeah. So there's a few things that we need to sign. So the first part is the actual images, and this is what the PR is proposing for. So we use Notary Project along with a self-signed certificate for that, and we'll distribute that via the public cert published at the root of the repository. And we'll sign all 3 images with the same certificate. For cosign, I'm suggesting for now, we actually just use cosign's keyless support. Other projects have done the same, and then we can actually upload the signature to the public good transparency log as well as a certificate transparency log. And that just will make it easier to just verify using cosign. In the future, we should discuss signing our binaries, but I know for now, maybe we can just start with our container images. For the SBOM, obviously there's the BuildX attestations, but beyond that, we may want to actually generate the SBOM as part of our release process as well. So the Go releaser action that we rely upon has a built-in SBOM support. So it uses SIFT to generate the SBOM, and then it'll actually generate the SBOM for every one of the different binaries that are produced, and then attach that as a SPDX file to the release output. So I think that's one simple change that we can make to start publishing those things. And then the final part would be if we want to attach using SIFT or some other tool like the Microsoft SBOM tool, we could generate an SBOM, package it as an OCI image artifact, and then attach that to the published images that we have. And then the same sort of flow exists for provenance. So provenance, the OpenSSF scorecard actually will give you recommends and scores if you have a .provenance file that's attached to your release assets. So the Salsa generator GitHub repository provides a GitHub action to generate Salsa provenance metadata, and it can run and then upload it to a release that you're targeting as well. So we could also implement that. But further down the line, we can look into implementing Salsa provenance for our container images as well, and maybe attach those as either in toto attestations or just directly as refer artifacts. So that's kind of a high-level overview of all the different artifacts and all the different layers of things that we need to produce and sign. And then here's the proposed dev flow to do it. So the first stage is complete for the BuildX attestations. Second stage is mainly covered by the PR that I have. So just generating those, the signature signing flow for the container images for the dev workflow. Beyond that, the stage 3 incorporates the Salsa provenance generation as well as the SBOM generation. And then I think in the future, we'll look into actual binary signing using notation cosign, as well as attaching refer artifacts with, for SBOM and provenance and things like that. So yeah, any thoughts, questions? It's a lot of different information here. So definitely, if you can take a look at this offline and provide some comments, that'd be great.
Any initial feedback, anyone?
I just left one comment. Is the Helm chart that we're publishing an OCI chart? And do we need to sign that as well?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. It is being published as an OCI one, so we can also sign that.
So what's how are you planning to tackle this? Is it already in like a PR stage at this point?
So stage 2 is in PR stage. So we have notation, the first 2 bullet points right here are in PR.
Okay.
form. Yeah. Going beyond that, we would need to prioritize, and this is where I need guidance from everyone else here to understand, like, are we okay with this workflow, or do we want to change things going forward? I think the signing of the images for dev is pretty important. So that I don't know if we'll have too much discussion on, but
Yeah.
all the other artifact generation and how we attach it, I think that we need to flesh out still.
So right now, are we producing SBOMs minimum?
We are not producing SBOMs.
That's a smaller flag to flip, right? At least to produce the SBOM and attach that. Do you think that's reasonable?
Yes, yeah, I think that's reasonable. So maybe we can scope that into the current PR too.
Okay, I think that's where I would stop. Everything beyond that is can be prioritized depending on what's happening, right?
Yep. Also, in terms of the signature for the certificates that we're going to be using, are we okay with the current workflow where it's just a self-signed certificate that we store in Azure Key Vault and we'll just distribute it, the public cert, at the root of the repository, or is there some other way someone recommends?
I don't have any concerns. Sure, I mean, you're a maintainer or notary, so notation, so you can, I think just chiming in will help confirm it if there is any concern.
No, I don't have any concerns.
What's the common practice for other projects to sign like artifacts? Do they save the cert or key in like AKV or some like vendor neutral cloud?
Do you know what's the customer workflow here?
I think currently, from the open source project point of view, so I didn't see users using notation for sign because it requires to manage the key and the certificates. I would say a few users, and for some users or vendors, they publish the images in, for example, in the Docker Hub. We see that users or vendors, they use the notation tooling to sign all the images and even some other OCI artifacts like Helm charts. I think for Ratify, I think the self-signed certificate is a good way to go, and also I think for the from verification point of view, the public certificates it is pre-downloaded and stored somewhere, right, Akash?
Yes, it's just being stored at the root of the repository.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think currently it's good to go.
So one question I did have was, I did see previously there was an announcement that Bitnami was signing their charts or their images with notation. Are you familiar with how they distribute their public cert? Is it just on a website? Is it also like a GitHub repository?
Yeah, it's you can check you can go to Docker Hub and find for example one images from Bitnami. There is a guide to show user how to verify it. I think the public certificate should be there for user to download.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, from trust policy point of view, it's just root C certificate and also the trust identities.
Yep. I see Sajay just posted some links in the chat. Thank you. We'll follow up offline.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Akash, so I think it's good to using a self-signed certificate for artifact signing, and in the end, if you put the root certificate in the GitHub repo, that means we are actually using GitHub as the trust source. So that's just letting you know. And as you can see in the Bitnami verification flow, they put it into a folder called .well known. I think we can also follow that. the .well-known folder is majorly used for the JWKS endpoint, but we can follow that folder format.
Sure. So basically create a .well-known folder and then just input the certificate inside of that.
Yeah, I think it might be a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the input, everyone. Next, we have the error message validations. Binbin, would you like to go through the status?
Yes, oh, we have two dots. I remember how it is too long to add any new content.
Yeah, I no longer can edit the content because it wouldn't let me save. But yeah, let's check on what are the remaining items and what is the ETA.
Yes, so I remember if you scroll down to the bottom, we have a few remaining.
So configuration is at the first section.
Yes. So so I remember store was assigned to famous, so we can wait for him. And this is the notation verifier.
Yes, so the notation verifier results are pasted here. So I've just pasted the logs and I'm still working through like what I think of the message. Like, for example, this message for referencing an invalid certificate store, like we first noticed it's like two verbose. It doesn't include any action item. It does have a link to the TSG, but I think we could also improve on having a specific error code. So I'm going through the error messages to see what can be improved here, but we can review the results from here. So if you can help me to paste the link to this link into the main doc, it'll be helpful for others to find the sub document.
Yeah, sure. Also, once we are done with testing, I will create a PR on the Ratify report. So I will just copy everything to our report discussion.
Yep, sounds good. So the verifier for cosine, it's also complete. Okay, so the next section is policy.
Yeah, I think E is working on the policy section.
E, do you have a ETA you can share?
I think maybe next week. I didn't start working on it yet.
Yeah, thanks for the update. So the next section is access control.
Hey, Junchen, is everything good on your side?
Everything good on your side?
Yes, I just filling the current arrows into the access control. And but for logs, one is about the cosine signature, so may need Akash's verification on this. Currently the error message I got is for cannot access the AKV, but I believe if we have the cosine verification words, it might change a little bit. because currently I'm following the end-to-end test where we have set up, and I got an output on the misconfiguration by an automation adding the key value into the parameters. I can bring the discussion offline, but so far this is the error message we have as expected following the walkthrough document. So I think it's fine. And as Susan had add some improvement ideas, I will add the improvements, expected errors too as well later. Yeah, but roughly what we have we already have the error logs.
Junsheng, I can follow up with you on offline to understand.
Junsheng, I can follow up with you.
Yes, thanks, Akash.
Next section for signature verification. I think Akash, you were helping with these. Is there anything special to note?
The biggest issue here is that a lot of the errors, all of them show the same exact message, which is, I think we're going to notice this trend, which is the no verifier report. This one's tricky because it actually depends on the situation. So I think the fix here is not maybe on the Ratify side, is more of a fix on the policy side. We need to author a set of policies that can provide verbose verification messages when it does fail.
But this only applies to the legal policy. Is that correct? Or both the legal policy and the config policy?
Well, so on the config policy, you get this message that's in the screenshot at least. On the rego policy, you actually don't get any message. And this is actually maybe another topic, Bin, that I wanted to discuss with you. Currently, the way the rego policy provider works is it takes the full list of verify reports and then provides policy on top of that. There are certain scenarios where maybe we want to be able to provide policy at like one level higher. So including like the actual subject name that applies to those verifier reports. So that, if you want to, let's say, deny list or allow list certain registries based off of the OPA policy, the rego policy that you write, or you want to say, actually, if there's no verifier reports returned, I want to also apply this specific policy. So I just want to see if it's feasible to change the policy provider maybe in the future to support those too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we have some for revocation and timestamping. Go ahead.
For the timestamping sections, we need to wait for the support from notation, so we can ignore for now. And if you keep scrolling down, yes, this is done. And I remember that a few items at the bottom. Yeah, for the certain rotation and the key rotation. So when I was testing on the AKV, because I found the shortest like expiry time was 1 month on the AKV side. So we can't just follow the regular way. We need to do some tricky way to like do the same thing. And also for the timeout, I tried some ways. One way is to use if sidecar to block or filter the request, but it looks like there was some like configuration disallowed in the security context when I was trying to set up the sidecar, so it failed. And also I was trying to use some like network policy, but it's not working as I expected. So I plan to just maybe do some tricky stuff like update our code to make some request timeout so I can reproduce the timeout issue.
Yeah, thank you. How often do we hit the cosine keyless timeout in our E2E test?
I feel it looks good right now, but maybe 1 out of 10 tests.
Yeah. The other idea is you can grab it from the logs if you know
Yeah,
how to find them.
that's another idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we need to like try like timeout from both like keyless cosine verification, and also I want to test the like from the remote registries or even the revocation check like the OCSP URL. So this is not just specific to the keyless URL.
Mhm. Cool. So then what is the plan for next week? Are we ready to, like, there's a lot of errors, and I think we need to identify the ones that we can make improvement for this release. Given we have our current release date for 1.3 is targeted end of August. So we should have the items lined out by this point.
Yes, I think I will start like analyzing our current errors with PMs and see what's the expected behavior for each error. Then we can have maybe create some issues for resolving those like discrepancies between the expected and the current behavior.
Yeah, sounds good. So hopefully next week we can have a list and be able to, maybe next week we can discuss on the priority and
Yes.
which one are the main focus for this release.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for driving this, Binbin.
Yeah, thank you everyone.
Next on the agenda is Akash been doing some work on the Ratify Container D POC, so he wanted to share some updates there. Akash, would you like me to, it's the last agenda and we have 12 minutes left, so would you like me to make you the host and you can share your screen?
Yes, please.
Make host.
All right, let me just get my screen set up. 1 second. All right, can everyone see my screen? Okay, so I've been working on this kind of on the side over the last few weeks. If you remember, quite a while ago, we had some discussions about integrating Ratify with Containerd. Specifically, there was an effort upstream to integrate what are called image verification binary plugins inside of Containerd's transfer service. And the original very basic POC was integration with the Ratify CLI. So it was a very simple shell script that would call the Ratify CLI, parse the output verifier report, grab the top level is success field, and then return an exit code of 0 or 1, depending on the truth value of the is success field. So since then, there's been some more work upstream. That feature has actually been released. Well, it's been merged into the main branch for Containerd and is slated to be released in the version 2.0, which should be landing any day now. And now there's been some more work upstream to actually integrate some of the clients, such as the CRI, to use the transfer service. So what that means is that you can actually use the kubelet with the CRI container D to leverage the transfer service when doing image pull. And then by default, you can set up the image verification plugin to work with that as well. So here's I have this overview document here. I'll paste it in the chat as well. It's currently in the Ratify container D repo that's going to be donated to the Ratify org. And I didn't go into the specifics explaining exactly, what container D is. I added some links here if you're curious about it or not aware. But for our purpose here, I can kind of give a brief overview of what the different processes for the kubelet integration look like. So kubelet is basically the process that runs on top of your Kubernetes node. And it's the one responsible for coordinating all of the container initiation, as well as all of the operations for pulling images and things like that. So basically reaching out to the container runtime interface, which provides the actual functionality for running containers, pulling containers, and all of the image pull operations there. So the kubelet is on the node. So when you try to create a resource, let's say like a pod, and it references a container image reference, the kubelet will attempt to create we'll tell the CRI to create a container based off of the specific image. And it'll first attempt to pull this container image using the CRI. And then the CRI itself is basically a standard that defines the actual functionality that the container runtime interface must implement. And there are different types of runtimes. So Containerd is the most popular one, but there are other ones out there as well. For our scenario, we have the CRI Containerd, which is the implementation of the CRI, and that is responsible for interacting with the core Containerd services that are exposed. So part of the Containerd process is this Containerd client here, and up till the transfer service was introduced, the Containerd client was the actual one responsible for doing all of the image pull operations. Now with the transfer service, the operations that were embedded inside the client have been exposed as a proper Containerd service so that you can customize those operations as you see fit. You can actually provide your own transfer service implementation, or you can use the default one that Containerd ships with as well. So inside of this transfer service, that's the one that actually has the operations and logic for pulling the container image. And the transfer service, inside of the pull operation, it has this extra logic to basically invoke a binary that's on disk. And then depending on how that binary returns its exit code, it can determine whether or not the image should continue being pulled or not. And that's exactly how the Ratify scenario would work. So the work that's been done now since the first version of the Ratify Containerd plugin is to get it fully working end-to-end with inside of a Kubernetes cluster. So for testing sake, I was using a Minikube cluster. So a little bit more details on how this works. The goal of this extra step was also to not just get it working with Kubernetes, but also come up with a way to make Ratify a little bit more configurable and would actually be a more useful way for a potential user to use this inside of their cluster. The biggest bottleneck here is that when you're trying to configure Containerd, you need to provide Containerd, obviously the Ratify plugin, as well as the Ratify binary, so you can invoke the CLI. And then all of the other prerequisite things that Ratify needs, including the config file, the policy, as well as any certificates that are going to be used during verification. So that's why a mechanism to add these things onto the node retroactively is necessary. And so that's where I introduced something called basically a config map watcher at the node level. So I'll just walk through this flow here. So we have our Kubernetes cluster here. We have our user here that's responsible for actually trying to apply those pod resources. And the user is also able to create and edit config maps. And so in our case, we have a specific Ratify config map. And it contains 3 different things. It contains our config JSON, it contains our Ratify certificate, which is the verification cert to use for notation, as well as the policy rego file. And then on the node itself, you have the config map watcher, which is set up as a daemon service. And it basically registers a watcher on this config map resource, and it listens for events that from the API server for changes to this config map. So whether it was created, updated, or deleted. And based off of those events, it'll just mount those files into the local file system, and then the Ratify CLI binary knows to use those files for verification. So pretty simple process here. But let's take it from a pod perspective. So when you try to schedule a pod, that's when a bunch of different things happen, and I'm gonna be very oversimplify the situation here. But for our purpose, what happens is that Kubelet will first attempt to pull from containerd, the CRI containerd. The CRI containerd will check the image store, which is actually where the local image content is stored. If the CRI containerd doesn't find it, then it's going to actually reach out to the transfer service to pull the image. And the pull operation then invokes the Ratify containerd plugin that we've authored. And then this plugin actually contains commands to the Ratify CLI binary. And then the CLI binary uses all 3 of these files to actually perform the verification, return a verifier report to the plugin, and then the plugin responds with the correct exit code as well as the reason for why it returned that exit code. And then the transfer service then makes the decision on whether to continue pulling or not. And if it doesn't continue pulling, it'll just stop at that point and provide in the logs why it was why that particular transfer verifier denied the admission. So very similar to how Gatekeeper operates as well.
I see Sajay have a question.
Yeah, Sajay. Yeah.
So with this model, basically we eliminate the add-on, right? And then we move all the verification down to the node.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems about right. What was the reason to invoke the Ratify CLI instead of directly having containerd, Ratify containerd do that? With just ease of implementation, is that why?
Correct. Yeah. So for now, it's just purely ease of implementation. Also, the current package structure in Ratify is not set up very friendly to just invoke it as a package.
Okay.
So we'd have to do work there, but just for now, because the CLI already supports a lot of this, it just makes it easier.
Yeah, it's very similar to Aura's evolved from Aura's CLI to Aura's SDK.
Yeah. So yep. So yeah, so I'll skip a lot of this other stuff. There's a lot of learnings and challenges here, but since we're running out of time, I think I can just show like a quick what the flow looks like. And if folks want to just take a look at that overview document in your own time, and then we can follow up and discuss. But the way it works is you just create Minikube cluster, set the containerd runtime. There's a few prereqs required here. One is that the actual kubelet needs extra roles in order to read the config map. This is a temporary workaround. There should be a way to use, the documentation shows that the kubelet identity should have the ability to read and list config maps on the cluster, but for whatever reason, I was running into issues with that. So we need to follow up and understand what's going on there. But that's why this current RBAC is set. After that, you apply basically a daemon set, and the daemon set does a bunch of things, including install a applicable version of containerd as well as CTR. It also sets up the config toml of containerd to actually apply the image verification plugin requirements. And then it also does things like install the Ratify plugin, install Ratify binaries, install the config map watcher binary, install the correct config map watcher service files, and then restart the service and start that so that it's running in the background. And then finally, it restarts containerd. So this is just simplifying the actual initialization of the node to be compliant with this demo. And then finally, we apply a sample config map, which contains the policy, the certificate, as well as the config JSON. And then if we test it with a signed image, similar to our Ratify quick start, the signed image, the resource will get created. And if we check the actual resource, kubelet will be able to pull and the container starts up. But in an unsigned image, the resource gets created, but it will fail to start the container because the kubelet will fail to pull. So if we take a closer look at that, we can see that if you describe the actual pod that's failing, we can see that down here, the kubelet is failing, and it'll actually show you the output verifier report, which is returned along with the exit code by the Ratify containerd plugin. So that's basically how it works. Yeah. So that's as far as I've gotten so far. There's a lot of learnings that I have, and I've summarized that in the overview document. There's issues in the Ratify CLI, quite a few gaps with authentication, as well as with KMP not even being in the CLI. So configuring certs is kind of painful. And then in general, this whole workflow has some holes in it. Things like multi-tenancy will not work with this, primarily because it's the same node shared by multiple workloads. So either we have to figure out a way to separate by workload, and even if that is the case, the way the containerd plugin is implemented, it's implemented at the pull time, which is prior to any checks to see if it already exists in the image store. So if another tenant did pass the image verification for it and the actual image was pulled onto the node, another tenant that does not allow for it, it wouldn't work in that scenario.
I remember there was work done. There was a KIP that I was following, which was about image bound by secret, secret or identity. I'm not sure if it's actually might help here, even if it's on the node, unless you have the secret to actually access it. The second question I had was, did we? I mean, you made a choice to use a config map to get the events to get the files, right? Were there any other options to consider, like a node volume mount or something that you could have used?
Yeah, we could use a node volume mount. The other option is actually we could use our own CRDs. So we can register our own Ratify CRDs and make changes on that, and then set up watchers on those.
The reason why I was going more for node volume mount is it helps scenarios where Kubernetes is not the orchestrator. So populating or like mounting the node volume is the only thing that you need from a specific node daemon set, right? And then if it's non-Kubernetes, you can assume that there is a location that you can trust, and that can be mounted out of band if at all necessary. Yeah. Anyway, this is awesome.
I think in general, the approach I was taking was that the actual mechanism to get the files on disk could be just decided based off of your runtime. So for Kubernetes, using one way, for Docker daemon, you might have another way of doing it. It's just the actual verification plugin is opaque to that. So
okay,
yeah.
Cool. So you just expect it to be at a particular location.
Yes. Yeah.
And that location is that location configurable at this point?
Yeah. So the config JSON is really what determines that. So the only location that you need to pin to is where is the config.
Okay.
So yeah, because the config is the one will have like all the file paths to where the other information can be found.
Cool.
There's other work being done to actually. There are other ways to do this using containerd. You can actually set up a containerd gRPC shim so that you can intercept calls to the create container gRPC call and then do things at that level too. That has its own issues, but we can stay away from that for now.
Shui had a question on, do we assume that Ratify containerd plugin is used without Kubernetes?
I think that is a valid assumption we should be doing moving forward if we are to pursue this. there's already been asked to see, is there a way to integrate this with Docker daemon? So in that scenario, you want, even if you're using Docker daemon with containerd, it may not be inside of a Kubernetes cluster. It could just be on your host, on a separate host. So.
What I'm hoping is that, I mean, we proceed with getting the repo sorted out, capturing a set of issues, and we can get feedback if the issues are there tracked, and we'll see how that goes. And yes, my hope, my thinking is that if people or if community says this is the model that they want to use Ratify in, then it gives it some weight. But the other scenario is that this could be the non-Kubernetes way of running this, and that becomes the default use case rather than using it with Kubernetes, which is what it is right now. Because what you're saying is there's two ways to do it. You can run it as an add-on, or you can, you can run it as a sidecar, or you can run it with your CRD, or you can run it this way as well. That might send a fragmented message of how to use Kubernetes and Ratify together.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's probably even more compelling for people to use this in a non-Kubernetes scenario, because it gets it models like, what is a scenario where you need to do both, or do you need both? So
I mean, I think I have the background for this, so that's why I understand it. But I think it's better to open the issue, and if you want to run this in your environment as an experiment, as a prototype, you can do it. But the main scenario would be non-Kubernetes is maybe something we can pivot it to along the way. That way, once this is set up, a Docker pull should be able to. The scenario would not be pod demo sign, it would be Docker pull or something like that, right?
Yep. Yeah. There are some scenarios I've seen where it's helpful to have this at the node level in Kubernetes. So Datadog did a whole presentation at KubeCon about how they chose to go down this route because admission controllers were too costly for them.
Okay.
So if you are very, very large clusters and you have very, very high, performance concerns, then maybe you would be interested in running it at this level. But I would say for the majority of people, that's probably not a concern. So
yeah, okay. So if your cluster is very large and you have different workloads running, but if every node is going to run the same image, it doesn't matter. You end up doing the same computation in like all the nodes versus one at admission time, right?
yeah, that's true.
I think the workload defines the profile of use case. Okay, cool.
We're over time, but really great content. Thanks for running us through that, Akash.
Yep, no worries. If anyone wants to try it, you can give it a shot. All these instructions should work, and if they don't, then I can fix it. But
yeah, so at the moment, the overview doc is checked in already. How would you want us to give feedback or ask questions?
You can just I can open up an issue on this repo. At this point, feedback is just about like, okay, what are the learnings and what we might want to invest in the future? The actual prototype, like how it works, I wouldn't focus too much on that because it would evolve if we pursue this any further. So
cool. Thanks for joining, everybody. See you next time.
Everyone, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.